Welcome back, movie lovers. I'm Josh.
I'm Chris.
And with our powers combined, we are Garner Brothers Movie Lovers. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for leaving a like. Thank you for... yeah, that's all. I don't want to thank you for anything else. What are we talking about today, Chris?
We're talking about Andor.
We are talking about Andor. And, or... The name is the last name of the main character, Cassian Andor, who is a character from the Rogue One Star Wars story film, which is one of the best Star Wars movies we've ever had ever. Maybe
Agreed.
The best. And this TV series is also pretty dang good. This takes place before Rogue One, obviously, because everyone dies. Spoiler alert.
Everyone dies in Rogue One, not in this.
Right. In Rogue One, everyone dies at the end. And if you haven't seen that and I just spoiled it for you...
Then why the heck did you not watch that movie before now? It's amazing.
Yeah, go see that movie. It follows Cassian going from someone who kind of wants to stay away from the conflict between the Empire and the rest of the galaxy, and eventually decides that he needs to be a part of the rebellion.
The show is created by Tony Gilroy, who helped write the show. He also wrote Rogue One. Tony Gilroy is also the writer of the first 3 Jason Bourne films.
That's Jason Bourne.
He's got a great pedigree. Tony Gilroy is a good writer. I like his storytelling a lot. I like his character building a lot. I like his writing. Here's a fun fact. Did you know that this is the least watched Star Wars streaming series on Disney+?
What? What the?
Oh my gosh, that is a travesty! Good heavens.
That's why I feel really strongly about reviewing this. And why we want to have the first part of this be spoiler-free for you, because we know that a lot of people haven't seen it yet. So if you haven't seen it yet, you should see it. I'm going to tip my hand here and say, this is like the best Star Wars thing since Rogue One. It's easily the best streaming series in the Star Wars universe on Disney+. It's easily the best streaming series of anything on Disney+. And I like it more than anything I've streamed off of any other service either. I like it more than Rings of Power. I like it more than...
I think if you take Rogue One out of the equation, this is the best Star Wars we've had since The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. Now, I will warn you, you do have to have a little patience with the show. There are not filler episodes in this series, but there are establishing episodes. Every episode advances the story and the characters in important ways, but some of them are really establishing and building conflict for later episodes. The series does kind of come in chunks. The first 3 episodes go together, the next 3 episodes go together. Episode 7's kind of its own thing, then 8, 9, and 10 really go together, and then 11 and 12 really go together. So if you'd like, you can watch it in chunks, those that I just laid out, and you'll get a real nice story arc with each of those chunks of episodes.
Each of those chunks individually and then collectively also connects well.
Yeah, oh, it does. There's a wonderful story arc to the whole thing, and awesome conflict. Like, there's this great, broad conflict between this bubbling rebellion that's becoming more and more allied and this empire that's becoming more and more tyrannical. But there's also all these layers of conflict. Every character has their own conflicts, and sometimes those conflicts change depending on which arc of episodes you're in. But it's awesome. To be in part of the grander story in episodes like 4, 5, and 6, for example, there's this broader story of rebellion versus empire. But within that rebellion, there's all this conflict between these characters, and Cassian's been dumped into the group late, and they don't trust him. And so there's all this... There's this interpersonal conflict, but there's this broader conflict. And the show is just awesome at building tension. I love it.
Wow, so don't break your nice watch. It is. I also think that the show is really good at making you care about people on both sides of the conflict, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because you'll find yourself rooting for a leader in the Empire for a long time until you realize once she starts doing her job,
she's horrible.
She's the worst of the Empire. And you're so like weirdly conflicted because like you've been rooting for her, I don't know, for half the season.
It's because of the conflict.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
She's got all this conflict going on. So she's in the ISB, which is like the Empire's KGB. And it's really actually kind of fascinating to get a look into like their little secret service kind of thing going on. But she just has all this interpersonal conflict between her and the other ISB supervisors. She's ambitious. That's the word for her. She's super ambitious.
She's trying to do her job better than everyone else, and you're like rooting for her. You're like, they're treating you unfair over there. You can do this.
Yeah, she's really competent.
Yeah.
But she gets stepped on all the time and overlooked. But she's the only one who sees the broader conspiracy of rebellion happening. She sees it before everyone else. She can tell when the Empire starts cracking down on everyone that they're actually playing into the rebellion's hand. Nobody else can see it. So she really is. She's a great combination of ambition and competence. And then later in the series, just ruthlessness. Like, she is really bad.
Yeah. I don't think we've had anyone who was just a general or something who was dang scary. And she doesn't have the Force, and she doesn't have a lightsaber. Or
nobody does. There's not a lightsaber in the series.
And it is...
no Force wielding.
Yeah, maybe we don't like Star Wars.
Well, I think that there's been such attention to fan service in the other streaming series for Star Wars, and this show is not interested in that.
Tony Gilroy, in an interview, talked about how he's not particularly a Star Wars fanatic. He loves the art of storytelling. I love that it's not fan servicey. I love that Luke doesn't show up. I love that there's no Baby Yoda. I love that there's no Boba Fett.
No merchandising opportunities.
Good heavens.
Now, in saying all of that, I loved Baby Yoda. I thought he was
Baby Yoda's
adorable.
fine. Yeah.
I was excited when Luke showed up. But
me too. But when that's not a good story to just have Luke show up. That doesn't make it a good story. It's fun and it's exciting, but it's not a good story to just have someone be on Tatooine and be like, we're on Tatooine. You see Tatooine?
Do you like it?
Do you like it? And that's all that Star Wars has been for a long time now. And I'm just glad that we're getting some original storytelling from the Star Wars universe again.
This show is not interested in that. This show just wants to tell a really good story, and it doesn't matter that there's no lightsabers or Jedi or Sith or anything. I actually really like it. I feel like this is the kind of story they should be telling in Star Wars right now. What little things were happening that set up the bigger things that we see in the films, because this is brilliant.
And the way you talked about how each, like, there's like clusters of stories throughout the story arc of the whole thing, you get it all in this show. You have some like political thriller. You have some heist clusters. You have like a prison escape cluster. There's like all this crazy stuff. And it is just a really great ride.
So I mentioned at one point how good this show is at tension. And it's been said that having a bomb go off is not as effective as knowing a bomb is going to go off and dealing with that, right? Mm-hmm. And this show does that so well. There's a conversation between two characters in the third episode that's taking place that could have just been a conversation. But you know the bad guys are honing in on them while they're having the conversation. It ratchets up the tension. In the 12th episode, the last episode of season 1, it's brilliant. All these characters that have never been in the same place before all come together in the same place.
Yeah,
for the last episode.
The whole season was a ticking time bomb for that final episode.
Yeah. And you've got 3 different groups of people there who are all trying to catch Cassian, and he knows he shouldn't be there, but he's there anyway, and he thinks he can escape them. And you know something's coming. All this buildup is just building and building, and you don't know what's going to happen, but you know it's going to be big.
It's crazy. When episode 12 happens, at least I had no idea what the
How it was
finale
going
to be.
Yeah.
And the story started unfolding. You realize the whole series had been building up to this thing, and the tension was thick.
Yeah,
That's good.
It really is. So it's really good at that. That's one of my favorite things about the show. I love the characters in the show. The characters are great. I think every character has things about them, with the exception maybe of Bix. I feel like Bix is maybe a little bit less interesting than all the other characters, but like tons of the characters have really interesting things about them. Even characters who are only in it for a scene. There's a torture doctor in one scene of the show that made a huge impression on me, even though he was only in that one scene, because he's so nice.
Yeah.
He comes
What
off
the
as just
heck?
like the nicest guy, only he's saying things in such a nice way that are awful about what he's about to do to you. And it was like so eerie.
Yeah.
It was such a memorable way to like imbue something into this character, that he wasn't just a throwaway evil torture doctor guy. Like there was something interesting about him. And so I feel like the show made everybody interesting along the way. There are characters that are only in their 3-episode arc, but they're memorable characters. Like one of the best characters in this show is only in 3 episodes.
Oh my gosh. I know exactly who you're talking about. Is it a spoil to say that he's in it?
Oh, Andy Serkis is in the show, and
Yeah.
he's amazing.
He's incredible.
He's amazing.
That dude has been working with his face for so long
Yeah.
that he can just express things without even saying any words in a
Yeah.
way that other actors can't. And
Yeah.
it is so fun to watch him.
Yeah.
I love Andy Serkis.
So do I.
Anyway, I love that there's consequences in this show.
Yes.
There's consequences to people's actions, and like with the sequel trilogy, lightsabers aren't really like cutting people in half anymore. They're just kind of leaving scratches. People are getting shot by laser guns all the time, and they're fine. Boba Fett and the Mandalorian both shoot a guy on top of a building at the same time in the face. And he falls off, and as he's falling, after being shot in the face twice, he shoots 7 times as he's falling down and continues to get shot as he's falling. Lasers do nothing to anyone. And in this show, they'll introduce you to characters. You'll become attached to a character, and he'll get crushed by a giant pallet of gold. And you're like, oh my gosh, is he going to be okay? Nope.
No.
He's gone.
Yeah, there's a bunch of characters who die along the
Yeah,
way.
and then it just happens over and over, and it makes the stakes so much higher. You know, Cassian Andor is going to be fine, and anyone else on the screen can die at any given moment, and they all do.
You've reminded me of one other thing I love about this series, and that is the portrayal of tyranny. I think it's so excellent. Like, you've never seen the Empire so tyrannical as they are in this. Now, you've seen them explode planets, and you've seen all these stormtroopers goose-stepping along and stuff. We've seen the big, broad scope of it. But you've never seen the effects of that tyranny on regular people in far-flung planets. But as the rebellion ramps up, the Empire always reacts with more oppression. And that's what one of the characters, Luthen, that's what he wants. He knows he has to cause things to happen.
Luthen is
so
incredible.
good. Stellan Skarsgård, he's awesome.
Stellan Skarsgård
Yeah.
is masterful.
Yeah, he's
in
awesome.
This is the best I've ever seen him.
The cool thing about his character in this, he has kind of a double life in this series. And so sometimes he plays this very effusive guy who does lots of things with his hands. And that's not him, right? But that's the face that he puts on.
It's so crazy, though. You could tell that it doesn't mean anything to him, even when he's doing it.
That's true.
It's crazy.
That's
'cause,
true.
Like,
that's a good point.
everyone around him is falling for it, but like you see him acting all eccentric, and then you just see the deadness in his eyes and how he's just completely succumbed to this advancement of the rebellion. And anyway,
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, he wants the Empire to get more
you
totalitarian.
could probably blame him for
Yeah.
the Empire becoming what they are.
You can. And sometimes even other rebels look at him and they're like, you did what? Because they know that's going to bring the Empire down on them. And he's like, we need it. We have to have this. And ultimately, that's the thing. It's the Empire's tyranny that forces Cassian to choose a side.
I do also want to say we did say there are no lightsabers and there's no Jedis and Sith, but there are two of my favorite spaceship encounters of any Star Wars movie ever in this show. They are super awesome. Anyway, so there is some Star Wars-esque things to look forward to in this show.
Oh, and it's clearly in the world that Star Wars has already created.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
when you're in the Senate with Mon Mothma, it's right out of the prequels, right? And you see little things from the other Star Wars episodes. They're in there, like the cameras that the Empire uses and stuff like that. I mean, they're all in there, but it's just not like, they're not in there to like make you excited that they're there. They're just there because that's the world we're in. And so it fits really perfectly into that world without being beholden to any of it, I think. I do have one gripe about the show. Probably the weakest part about the show. In the first 3 episodes, there are lots of flashbacks to Cassian's childhood.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't feel like those ever led to much.
They did not.
I feel like they were kind of trying to be like a parallel, similar story to things that were happening in those first 3 episodes, but it didn't work for me as well as lots of the other things did. So I'll say that, as well as like the little bit about Cassian looking for his sister that came up like twice in the series. Like I thought those were kind of throwaway things, but that's my really only complaint about the series. Like everything else I thought was really great and kind of woven to this bigger tapestry that was just awesome.
You do have to remember it is a slow build. So some people will look at that as a bad thing.
Some people
It's
might
not.
be bored.
And it is worth the wait for the finale. And you'll get those payoffs throughout in those little cluster stories that you'll see.
Yeah, there are payoff episodes. Episode 3, Episode 6, Episode 10 is my favorite episode in the series, and then Episode 12. Those are your climactic episodes. All the episodes before them build up to that, and it is a slow burn. But it's a burn. It's not just like, these are not filler episodes. This is not just your, like, save this town this episode kind of an episode from The Mandalorian. These are, like, everything that happens in these episodes is leading to something in later episodes. Except maybe for Cassian's backstory, childhood stuff.
Yeah. Maybe they'll revisit that in season 2. Cause
it may come back, yeah.
So, good, fine, bad.
Good! Fine.
Good. Bad.
Fine.
That's bad. That's bad.
Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
I think we've already told you. This is
Good, great,
this
fantastic
is good, great,
fireworks.
fantastic fireworks.
Yep, this is a great show.
It is fantastic. All right, so we recommend you watch this. And if you don't have Disney Plus, we recommend you do a free trial and watch this. Because honestly, this is the only thing you need to watch on Disney Plus.
For real?
Get that free month or something.
Yeah, something like that.
And
Or a
it'll be
week.
worth your time. It'll be worth your time. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for leaving a like, and we'll catch you next time. And she doesn't have the Force, and she doesn't have laser swords, and I don't even know if she uses a freaking... I just said laser swords. Don't kill me.